Using the sous vide function on the Ninja Foodie is a great way to meal prep, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do today with boneless, skinless chicken breast. Welcome to the Salted Pepper, where we cook for real life using real food and we keep it real simple. And today I'm gonna make something really simple, which is just boneless, skinless chicken breast, and I'm gonna use the sous vide function on the Ninja Foodie to do that. I have found that above all the different ways that I've tried to make chicken breast, using the sous vide function has resulted in the best outcome. And one of the great things about using the sous vide function is it's kind of set it and forget it. And you can season up your chicken differently. So each chicken breast, if you want to turn it into to top a Mexican salad, you can use Mexican seasonings. If you just want to cook a bunch up and you're not sure how you're going to use them, then just do simple salt and pepper. And it works great. So what I have today is 4 around 10-ounce chicken breasts that have been trimmed up. They are thawed, and I do recommend sous videing with thawed chicken breast, okay? I do recommend that. Now, the great thing though is you can bring them home from the grocery store, season them up, and you can use vacuum seal bags, vacuum seal them, and then put them in the freezer that way. And then when you want to meal prep, just take it out the day before and let it thaw, and it'll be perfect. All right, so the first thing we want to do, before I even talk about the bags that I'm using, the chicken breast and all that kind of stuff, let's just start off with how the Ninja Foodie manufacturers recommend using their sous vide function. So what they say in the manual is to start off with 10 cups of water in the inner pot. So what I have here is 8 cups of water, and I'll explain why I start off with 8 instead of 10 in just a minute. But I'm gonna go ahead and pour this in. They also recommend using the pressure lid during the sous vide cooking process, and that's what I'm gonna do today, and you keep the valve vented, all right? Now, you can work the sous vide function with a separate lid. So if you wanted to use, a regular lid that you have that fits on the Ninja Foodie that goes on one of your pots, that's perfectly fine. You can do that. However, one of the things that I am thinking has been calibrated is the use of the pressure lid. And I'll tell you why I think that. When you first start to sous vide with the Ninja Foodie, the temperature is usually about 10 degrees hotter. But then it equals out over the sous vide time, and I have had really good results each and every time I've used it. So I'm not sure how well it will hold the temperature with, let's say, just another cover that goes on top that would allow more of the heat loss, okay? Don't think it's gonna make that much of a difference, but just something to keep in mind. All right, so let's talk about the chicken breast. I already said they're around 10 ounces each. They've been trimmed, they've been seasoned. You can season them however you like. I just used salt and pepper, and then I have them in Ziploc baggies. Now, my favorite way to sous vide is using the vacuum seal bags, okay? But I know not everybody has a vacuum sealer, and I wanna show you that you can absolutely do it with a Ziploc bag. I do recommend getting a brand name. I wouldn't get the cheapest ones because you really wanna make sure they don't leak. If they leak, you're gonna get water into your chicken and it's not gonna be very good, okay? So I have Ziploc bags. These are Ziploc freezer bags, which are a little bit heavier duty, so that's what I like to use. And I have 1 chicken breast in each bag. You can absolutely put more than 1 into a bag. So if you wanted to put 2 chicken breasts in here, you can. Just make sure that they are in a single layer, that they are not against each other too much where the heated water can't circulate around and cook them evenly. So you wouldn't stack them tight in the bag. You want to make sure there's plenty of room. I prefer just to use 1 bag per chicken breast, usually because I have them individually frozen in the freezer that way. Then when you want to seal the bag, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can push out the air and roll the chicken until it gets up to the top and then zip it closed that way. You can do that. Or you can do what's called the displacement technique. And this is using the water in the inner pot to push out the air. And that's what I'm gonna show you right now. So what you do is put your chicken breast in, let it go in, and then push it down. The water is gonna push the air out. Then as you get to the very top of where it zips, just start to zip it closed. Now you want to make sure that doesn't go underwater, but you want to keep it as close to the water as possible to get all that air out. And then we have a nicely sealed bag that we can use for sous vide cooking. The reason why you want your bags to be without air is because if they have a lot of air in them, they're just gonna float. And you need your chicken submerged in the liquid for proper sous vide. Now, the next thing is, why did I start off with 8 cups of water when I think I'm gonna need 10? And the reason is you're gonna use different volumes of food when you're sous videing. You might sous vide 1 chicken breast, you might sous vide 5 chicken breast. And that is going to change the level of the water because as you add this volume in, it displaces the water. So it's gonna change the level. So I like to start off with 8 cups and then start to put in my chicken breast to see how high does it rise. Because if you have something very large that you're sous videing, you could get up over the max fill line and we don't wanna do that. That's not gonna happen here, but anyway. So this one's already ready to go. So I'm just gonna put it in. And then I will start the next one. And again, just let that water displace. All right, so now that all of the bags are sealed and the chicken is in, you wanna see how much more liquid do I need to add to make sure that they're submerged. So I'll start off with the 2 cups and see. And that looks like it's going to do it, honestly. So 10 cups of water is good for this amount. It raised it up to about a total of 14 cups. All right, now the next thing is the Ninja Foodie Manual says to put the pressure lid on and get the water heated. This is one of those things that I sort of questioned if it was necessary or not. And let me explain why I think it is and why I'm gonna follow their recommendations. So my original thought was, if sous vide cooking is done for such a long period of time, what does it matter if I just throw the chicken breast in, put the lid on, let it preheat with the chicken in there, and then continue to cook, okay? Then I started thinking, well, it reads about 10 degrees hotter when you first put it in. Now with the chicken, I don't think it's gonna make that much difference, but some other very delicate foods that you're cooking might make a difference if they get 10 degrees hotter even in the beginning. So I figured that if you put cooler chicken breast into the warm water, it lowers the temperature almost immediately because of the way heat transfer works. So I thought, I bet that's why they sort of have it calibrated a little bit higher in the beginning. So I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna go with it. It's not that big of a deal. Put the pressure lid on, let the water heat up. It just takes a few minutes and then I'll get the chicken breast in. Now remember, the valve in the back goes to the vent position when you're sous vide cooking. All right, so we're gonna hit the sous vide function. Now the temperature. I'm gonna set it so I can start to get this heated up and then I'm gonna explain the temperature because it might be a little shocking for some people. Okay, and hit start. All right, so again, that takes just a few minutes to heat up, 10 or 15 minutes. I mean, it's not like 2 minutes, but anyway, let that heat up and then it's gonna say add food, and that's when we'll open the lid and add in the chicken breast. And then we will set our time for 90 minutes and we will be done. Okay, so why 145? I know everybody has heard you cook chicken breast to an internal temperature of 165. And that is, you have to do it. You have to do that to kill any bacteria that might be present, especially salmonella. Okay. However, and this is something I question, so I've done a lot of research on it. However, when you are killing bacteria for whatever reason, okay, whatever reason, there is a heat temperature that will kill the bacteria instantly, and then there's also heat over time that will kill bacteria. And that's what we're using when we're doing the sous vide function and setting our temperature for the chicken at 145 instead of 165. We're using a lower heat for a longer period of time, and the results are amazing, okay? Amazing. You can absolutely set your temperature to 165, and you can put your chicken in and maybe even do it just for 60 minutes and it would be done. However, I really urge you to do 145 for 90 minutes. It is night and day, the texture and tenderness and moistness of the chicken. It is amazing. I cannot express this enough. And it is perfectly safe to do, okay? Perfectly safe because we've got a temperature of over 130. That's an important temperature to remember when sous videing, especially with meat like chicken. It has to be over 130 in order to effectively kill the bacteria, even over time. So I could leave this in for 5 hours at 120 and it would not pasteurize the chicken or kill the bacteria. So 140 is where, or over 130 is where you need to be, but 145 will give you, I think, the best results. 140 was a little bit of a strange texture to me. At 150 was not as good as 145. So that's why I stuck here, 145 for 90 minutes, and I hope you try it out. All right, there we go. So we have the add food. Now I will tell you right up front, this goes to 30 seconds and that's how long they give you to add the food. But don't worry if it takes you a minute or a minute and a half, it makes no difference whatsoever because we can set our time. In fact, I haven't even set the time yet. I don't usually bother until I add the food. All right, so you can remove the lid. There's nothing to release, okay? There's no pressure built or anything like that. And then we will do a quick temp, and I'm doing this just to show you the difference. So I'm at 162, all right? And then, and I set it for 145, so you see it's even a higher difference than that average 10 degree. Don't worry about it. All of my testing has worked out perfectly fine, and I have done several different types of food in the sous vide cooker, and they've all worked fine. Even though it doesn't circulate, it still works fine. So I'm very pleased with it. Okay, and I wasn't sure if I would be, to be completely honest with you. All right, now just make sure it is completely submerged. If you have any bit that's floating, you can put a weight on it, like even a plate upside down, and just put that on there. I think that we are good to go though. I'm just checking out that one piece, but it is under the water. Now the water's hot, but it's not like so hot it's burning me or anything. Now let's see. I wonder if just adding that in changed the degrees any, and it did. So you see it's now 156. So we've lost some of the heat just from putting that in. That's the only reason why I recommend putting in the food after it says add food. All right, and I don't think it makes that much of a difference with something like chicken, honestly. Let me explain why I was having a little trouble with the lid, because that might cause concern for people. It's no big deal. But because we do have a steamy pot, I'm trying to put the lid on against the steam, and as I push down, it wants to raise that pin, which locks the lid. It just takes a little bit of maneuvering, and it will go on just fine. All right, so now we have our temperature. I'll just double check. We are at 145 Fahrenheit, and the time is going to be 90 minutes. There we go. And then just hit the start button and you're good to go. You don't need to do anything for 90 minutes. In fact, you don't need to do anything if you wanted to set it for 2 hours because you were not going to be home for 2 hours and you wanted it to stay cooking. Perfectly fine. What you don't want to do, though, especially with the chicken breast and some other meats, is you don't want to set it for like 8 hours because you will start to see or taste texture changes in the meat. So I really recommend not going any longer than 2.5 hours with your chicken breast. Each meat's a little bit different. Each cut's a little bit different. But for the chicken breast, I would stick no longer than 2.5 hours for the best outcome. But 90 minutes will get the job done, and I'll be ready to then remove them. And I will talk a little bit about how you can store them for future use if you wanted to, meal prep a whole bunch, but you don't want to sear them off right away, or, you want to use them for different things. So I'll go over all of that when they come out. All right, so the 90 minutes is up. We can go ahead and open up the lid. Now, I always take a temperature of the water just to see how well it maintained. Usually it's right on the money though. And it's 143. So, you know, I think that's pretty good. And that's what I'm talking about. It seems a little hot at first, but it equalizes over time. And the food I've done has been cooked perfectly. Now you just bring the bags out. You don't have to let the meat rest because it's such a slow cooking process that it's not going to lose any moisture. So you can dig right into it if you wanted to. So you could take these right out and serve them as is, or you can move to the next step, which I'm gonna do, which is to sear them on both sides, just to add that browning, that Maillard reaction, and it just makes it extra delicious. So let me empty the pot, get some oil in here, get it heated up. I will open these up. I will slice into one as is and go ahead and sear it up and show you both ways because it's delicious either way you do it. So I saved the baggies here instead of throwing them away because I just wanted to show you the small amount of juices that escaped during the cooking process. This is about a tablespoon. That is the key. That is why these chicken breasts are so incredibly moist with the best texture. So let me go ahead and cut into this one. Even though I'm gonna sear it, I want you to see exactly what I mean here. It's perfectly cooked. It is absolutely wonderful. Oh my gosh, so amazing. Let me taste it. Oh my gosh. It is the best chicken breast I've ever had. Oh my gosh. Perfect. You can skip the searing part if you want to use your chicken for, let's say, chicken salad, or if you want to shred it into a soup or even cube it into a soup. It's perfectly fine. But if you want to take it to the next level, then you're going to want to sear it in the hot oil for just a few minutes just to get that browning effect. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in. Get a nice, I'm only going to do 2 of them this way, because the other 2, I'm not even going to use right away. I'm gonna let them cool completely in the refrigerator, and I'm gonna reseal them up in a vacuum sealed bag, and I'm gonna keep them in the freezer for when I need a really quick and easy dinner. I can take them out the day before or do a quick thaw with the steaming function or something like that, and I will have dinner in no time at all. So I'm gonna leave these like this and put them in the freezer, but I'm gonna sear these to show you how beautiful they look when they come out. Meanwhile, I'm gonna snack on this chicken because it's so delicious. So after about 2 to 3 minutes on the one side, you can go ahead and flip the chicken over. So once you flip the chicken breasts, let them sear on the other side for another 2 to 3 minutes, and then we can turn the Ninja Foodie off and we can bring them out. Now, one great thing, once you sear them, you do not need to let them rest either, okay? So that's one great thing. It can be a meal that you make ahead and then sear and serve right away. Let me go ahead and turn the Ninja Foodie off right now. Let's see how the other side is coming along. Can go another minute, but the oil is very hot, so I'm not worried about having the foodie off at this point. Yeah. Just another minute, we'll be done. All right, let's go ahead and take these out now. Oh my gosh, look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. Wow. Okay, I have made, oh my gosh, I couldn't even count how many chicken breasts in my life. This is my favorite way to do it. Really, it is amazing. You'll never taste chicken as good as if you sous vide it and then sear it. It's perfect. All right, so let's go ahead and cut into this one. Get that out of the way a little bit. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. I love it. Now keep in mind, I just use simple salt and pepper in this recipe. You can use any dry seasonings that you like. Even marinades work perfectly for sous vide cooking. Whether you're doing chicken or another cut of meat, works perfectly. The one thing that you want to keep in mind is if you're going to use garlic, you want to cook it first. So you can either roast it and then add the roasted garlic to the sous vide bag with the meat that you're sous videing, or you can saute it first. And that's important for a couple of reasons. Garlic doesn't cook at the lower temperatures, so you're going to have a bitter tasting end result. It's just not going to be flavorful like you think of when you cook with garlic. The other thing is that it's an anaerobic environment, and garlic can produce some toxins that can make you sick in anaerobic conditions. So definitely sear your garlic before you add it to your marinades if you're going to sous vide, or if you just add it to a bag of dry spices, to add extra flavor. Just saute it first. As always, make it yours, make it delicious, and keep it real.